All right, today's demonstration is blind continuous line drawing. Blind continuous line drawing is difficult because we're going to create a drawing in ultrafine Sharpie marker, but in blind continuous line drawing, we're not allowed to look at our paper, or in your case, your sketchbook. You're only looking at your object. So, why is that important? It's important because it forces you to see the length of the lines, the circumference of your object, the angles of your object, all of these little details, and maybe even like if you have a baseball that you're drawing, the threading for the baseball, it helps you see it differently. Sort of like we had that Done Early project, which was the upside down Picasso drawing. Not easy. It was another way to kind of force ourselves to really look at length and direction of line. So if you had an opportunity to do that, that actually helps with this, because that was your first kind of exercise of really looking at length of line and direction of line. Okay? We all have a sports object in front of us, and if being Monday, if some people forgot their sports object, I asked students to use their hand and to hold their hand so they could see all 5 fingers. Okay? Tricky to do. What I'm going to do up here is kind of do a demonstration of both just for today, but students that have these objects due on Wednesday, because of all the labs, I know that they'll have their sports object. So first, in blind continuous line drawing, you want to look at your object and pick a particular place to start. Okay, I'm going to start at the top, right here, of my bowling pin. Okay? Then I'm going to pick a particular place that makes sense to start on my paper. I usually, being a right-handed person, like to start at the right side of my paper or the top of my paper and work my way down and around. Okay. I'm going to actually draw every little thing, including the crease of this bowling pin. The cool thing is, because I'm not actually looking at my paper at all, this is the first time I'm seeing things like kind of perspective in this bowling pin, because we all have our objects on the table, and so we're drawing our object at an angle. And now I'm just kind of creating contour lines around the surface. And I want to make something look different, like a band. Like, the band on my bowling pin is red, so obviously I have that black marker, but I want to give it the idea of being colored in. Okay. And now I'm looking at the width, and by now you're probably saying, this is my art teacher? Done. Okay. There's my whole drawing, and it's atrocious. But I learned a lot about my object while I was drawing it. I learned that even though when I look at my object like this, the top part is really short compared to the bottom part, I learned that when I'm looking down on it, the comparison is even. And that's evidence in my drawing, that this is only slightly, from my point of view, shorter than this. Does that make sense? Because when you take your object and move it into space, it looks different depending on the angles. It was my first opportunity to see that kind of like the volume, or like really how it goes from skinny to wide to skinny, and that comparison from the top to the bottom. So I'm forced to really look at my object, and there's no way that I can even feel self-conscious about my drawing, because it's not a drawing from observation. Like, I mean, it's not a drawing where I'm looking at my paper. And I'm not allowed to erase, so really there are no mistakes. The only mistake is lack of practice. The only mistake is lack of line. If I were to do my hand, oh, that's kind of cool. Gotta wear the spotted shirt more often. Okay. I'm going to hold my hand like this, move it over to the side, and because my paper might slide, your sketchbook might not, but I'm actually going to start at the wrist and go all the way around. Pick my point at the paper, and here I go. Not looking at my paper at all. And I'm getting every crease in my knuckle. And you work your way around, and I'm looking at the angle and the distance of every line. I'm going a little faster than you should go, and that's just because it's the demo, and I want to give you plenty of time to draw. If you're still picking out your object, your sports object, and you're trying to think of what you should bring, I would consider bringing something that has some interesting, like either threads or patchwork on it, like a soccer ball or volleyball, because there's so much detail on it. It gives you more room for mistakes. If you have something like a drawing that's really detailed, you actually can get away with a little bit more, and your piece will still look interesting. So there's my hand, okay? And the good thing about it, what I don't expect is the proportions to be right, and it's not. But the good thing about it is I've got all that line. There's a lot of line work. I can see every crease in my hand. And the basic direction is what I thought that I saw, which is all you have to do. So are we ready? Okay, so let's give it a shot.